Kimmi Chex here with Marcas Grant and Adam Rank. Fellas, the 2020 NFL Draft is officially in the books, which means we have a lot to chat through, especially for fantasy football. So we're going to break down which rookies need to be on your radar and fantasy. And let's start off at the wide receiver position. You guys are both in agreement on who you think the top wide receiver rookie this year is. Marcus, let's kick it off with you. Who is this guy?
It's Justin Jefferson for me. I mean, he walks into a situation in Minnesota where Stephon Diggs is gone, traded to the Buffalo Bills. That leaves about 94, 95 targets available from last season. And look, he's not going to absorb all of those necessarily, but he will see quite a bit. He's a pro-ready guy. He'll pair with Adam Thielen. I expect the Vikings to move them both around the formation and get them opportunities. The one thing to keep in mind, Minnesota will still be a run-heavy offense. They're still going to go primarily through Dalvin Cook. But just the fact that there are so many targets that were left vacant with Stephon Diggs going means that I think Jefferson walks into a big opportunity. I don't know that his ceiling is the highest from this class, but I think in 2020, he's the guy with the best production opportunity.
And last season, Stephon Diggs was the wide receiver 24, even splitting time with Adam Thielen and having 94 targets. I'm not saying that Justin Jefferson will land in that spot, but I think that's a pretty good bet.
All right, now let's talk about the first wide receiver that was taken off the board in this year's draft, Henry Ruggs. When are you guys going to draft him in your fantasy drafts this season?
I don't know that I'm going to. I like Henry Ruggs a lot. I think he's a very good wide receiver. I think that playing in Las Vegas is going to be perfect for him because he fits that offense because they needed somebody to stretch the field, but his impact is going to be on players like Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, and Josh Jacobs because he is going to stretch the field, which means he's going to have some volatile production. Some weeks he's going to have a huge touchdown and he's going to do something spectacular. And then there could be 3 weeks where he doesn't do anything. So while he's a great NFL player, he's perfect for the Raiders. I thought this was a great pick, but Raider fans understand for fantasy, you just can't trust him.
You know, I think the cop-out for a lot of fantasy analysts when you look at a guy like Ruggs is to say, well, you know what? He's going to be great at best ball. So I'm going to say, you know what? He's going to be great in best ball. He's that guy who as Rank said, he's going to be boom or bust. There's going to be some home run weeks. There's going to be some strikeout weeks. If we're talking redraft leagues, I would give him a shot in the double-digit rounds. I just thought it was sort of a weird fit. And then the fact that the Raiders went out later in the same draft, they got Lynn Bowden out of Kentucky. They got Brian Edwards out of South Carolina, put them in the same offense with Darren Waller and Tyrell Williams. Hunter Renfrow still hanging around there. There are a lot of potential targets, which means Ruggs having a breakout season in 2020 seems unlikely.
All right, let's play a fun little game of Would You Rather. Would you rather draft CeeDee Lamb, who went to the Cowboys, Jerry Jeudy, who went to the Broncos, or Jalen Reagor, who went to the Eagles? Rank, let's start it off with you.
I'm going to go with Jalen Reagor, and I think that was an interesting pick. I thought that they were going to go with Justin Jefferson. They even pulled the head fake on me. I'm like, oh, my gosh, here it happens. And then they didn't. They went with Jalen, and it's fine. You know, when you watch him play, he will obviously remind you of Deshaun Jackson. And one of the reasons that I would pick him ahead of the other guys, while I had him further down the board, where I think CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy are better receivers, I think this situation is much better for him. Playing with the Philadelphia Eagles, you've got an elite level quarterback. You've got a lot of opportunity. They are starved for a wide receiver there. I don't anticipate anybody eating into his target share. So he's going to get an immediate opportunity to go out there and shine. So that's why I would take him up there.
Marcus, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking at Jerry Jeudy in this group. I mean, I thought he is the best maybe overall. It's a toss-up between he and CeeDee Lamb as who was the most overall talented receiver in this group. But I think Jeudy is an excellent route runner. He pairs with Courtland Sutton, so there isn't that pressure for him to come in and immediately take a big burden in that passing game there in Denver. They've put together a really nice offense between Sutton and Jeudy. I mean, Melvin Gordon comes in as a free agent. They've got Noah Fant. They drafted Albert Okwuegbunam at the same time to add to it that tight end group. But I think Jerry Jeudy steps in and makes a really big impact. And I think, especially down the road, I think his ceiling is a little bit higher. But I think Judy's a guy that you can take a shot at maybe in round 7 or 8. And I feel like he's got rookie Calvin Ridley sort of vibes when Ridley had that huge rookie season in Atlanta. I think Jeudy can do something on par with that.
All right, let's move on to the sleeper wide receivers. Who are guys that you guys think are kind of falling on the radar, but may pop up later in the season and be a good fantasy fit? Rank, you first.
I'll go with Michael Pittman. He was a second-round draft pick, so it's not like he's off the radar. And of course, he went to USC. And I think, Marcus, we can say we're beyond the times where you could just simply dismiss a receiver because he went to USC, which was always a ridiculous notion anyways. But I love the situation that he's going into in Indianapolis. The T.Y. Hilton and Zach Pascal were the only wide receivers last year with more than 20 receptions for the Indianapolis Colts. And now Pittman joins a team, and he would probably leapfrog Zach Pascal for me. T.Y. Hilton has battled some injuries, and he's now on the other side of 30. So I think there's a huge opportunity as long as he can develop some chemistry with Phillip Rivers. He is somebody that I'll be looking at in the double-digit rounds. I'll probably have my first 3 receivers already settled. That's when I start looking for players like this, the high upside guys in a great opportunity and a great offense.
All right, so Marcus, where are you going to draft your sleeper, and who is it?
I mean, look, Antonio Gibson is my sleeper at wide receiver, and he's a guy, I think he's more end of the draft is what you're talking about there. Gibson is a hybrid guy. I mean, you know, you're not sure whether he's actually a running back or a wide receiver. I believe he was sort of listed as both, depending on where you look. I don't see him playing the running back position in Washington, right? They've got Darius Geis, who should be back and healthy this year. They signed Peyton Barber as a free agent. They still have Adrian Peterson. They're still waiting on Bryce Love to see if he can develop. So I think Gibson is going to have a hard time making his mark as a running back, but as a wide receiver, beyond Terry McLaurin, that position is still sort of up for grabs there. So as a guy that you can put out in the slot, you can line him up in the backfield and have him catch passes, maybe fill a little bit of that Chris Thompson role that we saw for so many years in Washington. I like Gibson, but again, he's a guy you can wait until the very last couple rounds of your draft, who's likely still going to be on the board. But I think the upside there potentially is huge if Dwayne Haskins can take a step forward at quarterback.
All right, let's move on to the running back position. This is another type of position where you guys are in agreement on who is the top fantasy rookie running back. Rank, starting with you. Who is it?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And let's make this simple. Like, don't overthink this thing. I know. Put on your Chiefs hat. You should enjoy this pick. Like, what a great opportunity. You should be, because this is one of the things when you're a Super Bowl champion, and now because nobody drafts running backs anymore, they're allowed to fall to the 32nd overall pick. This is huge for Andy Reid, and this is one of the reasons why I really like him. Now, when to hear Andy Reid tell it, he watched some film, and one of his assistant coaches or somebody in the scouting department said, look, he reminds me a lot of Brian Westbrook. Andy Reid watched the film and was like, no, he's better than Brian Westbrook, which of course is a little bit of a blasphemous statement to a lot of Philadelphia Eagle fans. The thing is, though, too, and I know that the way fantasy works and everything, and you're like, oh, I hope I can sneak by. You're not going to be, no, you're not sneaking up. You're not getting, if you're not committed to drafting him in the 3rd round, you're not getting him. And for me, for somebody who likes to draft receivers, I might even go George Kittle, Chris Godwin. I have no problem making Clyde Edwards-Helaire my first running back off the board.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's a no-brainer that CEH is the first running back off the board. In dynasty rookie drafts, he's your first overall pick. Look, I had been sort of teasing and wanting the Chiefs to go get one of those top running backs in this draft. I didn't think it would actually happen, so I was sort of over the moon, like most of fantasy Twitter, when it actually did come to fruition. I mean, the guy who is arguably the best pass catcher amongst the running backs in this group. He obviously goes to arguably the best offense in the league. You put him back there with Patrick Mahomes, having running those RPOs, especially when we saw Mahomes running the football a little bit more in the postseason last year. You take a great offense, you make it damn near unstoppable. And I think especially in our current PPR world that we live in, CEH has a chance to really be a solid RB1 in most redraft leagues.
Okay, so Clyde is a win for fantasy football, and it's a win for my Kansas City Chiefs. We're coming for 2 Super Bowls in a row. You can't tell me nothing, but I look like Easy, so I'm done with the hat. All right, another game.
Do you even know who Easy is? Do I have to call you out on that?
Do you know who Drake is? Like, leave me alone.
Of course I do.
Okay, well, of course I know who Easy is.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, let's play another game of Would You Rather, but with running backs this time. Would you rather draft DeAndre Swift or Cam Akers? Rank you first.
I'm going to go with Cam Akers. I was secretly hoping coming into this draft, as I watched more and more film on him, because obviously Florida State is not the prominent football power that it was a number of years ago, but really started to like Cam Akers' game and was hoping that he would walk into a pretty good situation. And I don't think there's not many situations I like better for him than going to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, obviously, last year they used a 3rd-round pick on Darrell Henderson. Malcolm Brown is still there. Cam Akers is a better player. He's a better fit for their zone blocking scheme. And I don't think that Sean McVay is going to get caught up in the, hey, we have a couple other guys. Let's try to, no. Cam Akers is a 3-down back. He can catch the football. He is going to be able to do it all. And I'm very close. Like, it's one of those things that if I missed out on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which I don't want to, I would love to have him on my team. I'm very happy taking Cam Akers. Probably can get him in the 4th round, though. He's probably going to, or maybe he might be the one who drops to the 5th, because a lot of people look at that Malcolm Brown and the situation with Darrell Henderson and try to stay away. So you might be able to wait on him a little bit, but I'm very excited about Cam Akers.
All right, Marcus, who are you excited about?
I'm looking at DeAndre Swift. I want to have Rank's level of confidence in Cam Akers. I just don't. I still think Darrell Henderson's going to muck up our plans a little bit. So I'm going to go DeAndre Swift here. And it's not a clean situation in Detroit by any means, right? KESHAWN Johnson, we all thought was going to be a breakout player last year. I took him in the 3rd round of countless drafts, only to end up a little bit disappointed when he couldn't stay healthy. And I think that is sort of the biggest thing, though, right? In 2 seasons, he's played 18 games. The Lions made this pick because I think they were a little bit frustrated and trying to wait. They're tired of waiting basically on Johnson to stay healthy. So I think Swift comes in there. He can catch the football. He can play 3 downs if they need him to. And I think he's a guy who really has a lot of upside. I mean, he was arguably the number 1 running back off the board on a lot of big boards. So I think he's the guy who comes in, makes an impact. And if Johnson continues to struggle staying healthy, suddenly Swift ends up with a huge workload as kind of the undisputed running back there in Detroit.
May I make a comment on that, please?
Absolutely.
If I can raise my hand. Honestly, Swift is a much better running back than KESHAWN Johnson. I'm with Marcus. I'm not worried about that one either. I actually have DeAndre Swift as my number 3 rookie running back. So I fully endorse it. I think KESHAWN Johnson was nice. It was a nice run. You had an opportunity, but I think now it's DeAndre Swift's time.
All right, let's do another would you rather, but this time let's do Jonathan Taylor or J.K. Dobbins. Marcus, starting off with you first.
You know what? I love Jonathan Taylor. I thought he was my number 1 running back coming into this draft, but I'm going to say J.K. Dobbins here just because the Ravens are so run heavy. On the one hand, when I saw this draft pick, my first thought was, why can't anybody let Mark Ingram be great? But look, it was already frustrating because Lamar Jackson was scoring a lot of those rushing touchdowns, and now you got J.K. Dobbins that's going to step in here. He's got great speed. You pair him in that backfield with L-Jax. I think he's going to get enough touches, and he has that big play potential on a run-heavy offense that I think there's some production for him. I think long-term, Jonathan Taylor's the guy that I would love, but I think in the short term, there's a very good chance that J.K. Dobbins has a sneaky good first season.
All right, Rank, what about you?
Yeah, both these guys have roadblocks, as Marcus put it out there. And, for Taylor, who I would go with, I mean, obviously Marlon Mack is a good player. They got Naheem Hines there, who's also a 3rd down back. It really comes down to how well Jonathan Taylor can start working on his pass protection. He wasn't asked to do that a lot at Wisconsin. He did catch the ball around 30 times, or 26, I think it was, his last season there with the Badgers. And there's some talent there to catch the football. And I think that eventually he could end up being the guy. So Jonathan Taylor would be somebody, because I just feel with Dobbins, he's a little further down the depth chart. I think that Marlon Mack showed that he can, has a little bit of an injury history. They've got such a great line with the Indianapolis Colts. You're speculating with these 2 guys. I think they're both dynamite running backs, but I would just favor Taylor in this situation.
All right, speaking of speculation, who are you guys speculating? Maybe some sleepers at the running back position who could be sneaky good, or sneaky guys that you need to get on your fantasy roster. Marcus, kicking it to you first.
Yeah, I'm going to go KESHAWN Vaughn here, getting drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I say this with a bit of a heavy heart as a Trojan and a Ronald Jones truther. But it may be time to sort of put that dream on life support right now, just because Vaughn is the guy who can step in and make plays right away. And the Bucs were very much in need of a running back. I know that Tampa has tried to wait on Ronald Jones, but his development has been slow. I don't think that we'll see Jones completely pushed out of the picture. He'll still find his way on the field and have the opportunity to get some touches. But I think the chances of Vaughn coming in and being that 1st and 2nd down guy right now really makes it interesting. The other wild card here is Dare Ogunbowale, who catches the football. He's their pass catching back, so he could really muck up this whole thing. But I think Vaughn is a guy who's poised for a lot of opportunity in his first year.
It seems so weird that coming into the draft, we were kind of locking in the running back that the Buccaneers were drafting as the number one guy. But when it fell to KESHAWN Vaughn, I like, I think he's a good player. But if they would have taken DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor, like that would have been lights out.
No doubt.
No doubt about it. And maybe, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, perhaps that's who they were thinking about at 45, and then they decided to wait a little bit. So that makes that situation a little bit murkier. Speaking of, if I may, Kimmy,
Raise your hand again. Raise your hand again.
To jump to another murky running back situation, I want everybody to have on their radar Joshua Kelly, who played for UCLA. Odds are you did not see him play. UCLA students didn't even see him play because about 15,000 show up. They play a lot of Pac-12 after dark games. So you probably didn't get an opportunity to watch him, but he is a very good, very talented running back. And when you see him finally get an opportunity, you will be impressed. Obviously, he's not going to push out Austin Eckler, who is the undisputed number one running back for the LA Chargers. The thing is I think Joshua Kelly's actually better than Justin Jackson. And so if you're looking to handcuff Austin Eckler, if you want to take a speculative ad late in drafts in the final rounds, this would be a guy that I would definitely take a look at.
All right, now let's move on to the quarterback position. I want to start with the new Tiger King, Mr. Joe Burrow. He went first off the board to the Cincinnati Bengals. Come on, he was a Tiger.
I love it. No, it's great. No, you passed that one. Yeah,
I'm giving some props to Joe Exotic, my man's. But Joe Burrow, what is his fantasy value in 2020? Is this something that guys want to target in a dynasty league? Is he more of a streamer? Marcus, you first.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a dynasty pick. I mean, he's going to be coming off kind of the middle part of your dynasty leagues, and the upside is huge there. In terms of more traditional fantasy leagues, he's a QB2 for me. I like that the Bengals seem committed to getting him help. I mean, we know that what they've got, AJ Green is back for at least one more year, Tyler Boyd, John Ross. They've got those guys there, but then they also go out and they add T. Higgins in the draft. So they are putting pieces around Joe Burrow for him to be successful. But I think his greater value is going to be in 2021 and beyond. I think if you want to take a dart throw at him late in the draft, have him as a potential bye week option, something like that, I think that's kind of where his ceiling is going to be this year.
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird that the Bengals did a better job of surrounding Joe Burrow with talent than the Packers? Hey, look, who's the better organization? You know what's weird, though? And obviously I think of Joe Burrow as a streamer, but now as you start really inspecting it, this guy is starting to get into the category of a low-end QB1. And obviously by surrounding him with so many available options, like putting T. Higgins there with a team that already had Auden Tate and Tyler Boyd, and as you mentioned, AJ Green, that shows me that they're committed. And last season, the Bengals allowed 420 points, which means unless they vastly improve on defense, they're going to be in a lot of games where they're expecting their quarterback to throw to rally them late in the game. And there could be an opportunity for a lot of garbage time points. And to me, it seems like Joe Burrow is going to be such a low buy that he could end up being a league winner for you, considering how much opportunity there is going to be for him to throw the football.
Well, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for Joe Burrow. I think he had probably arguably one of the best college football seasons we've ever seen out of a quarterback or a player for that much. But what about Tua? What is his fantasy value going forward? A lot of people are arguing that 2020 may not be his fantasy season, but when you get into 2021 and what he can do for the Dolphins, that is where you want to pick him up. Marcus, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, Tua obviously sort of like Joe Burrow, his biggest value is in dynasty leagues. But, I just have that feeling if Tua gets a clean bill of health, I still think that Ryan Fitzpatrick starts the year as the number one quarterback in Miami, but we've seen how this Fitzpatrick movie goes, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Tua get on the field. And when he does, you're going to see fantasy Twitter go nuts. You're going to see people clamoring to get him off the waiver wire if he's out there, because he can run with the football, which is that cheat code that we all want in fantasy. They've got some interesting young wide receivers. We saw what Preston Williams did last year before he got hurt. Devontae Parker finally had his breakout season. Mike Gesicki is going to be a popular kind of sleeper tight end pick, I think, as we go through the season. So the pieces are there. And when we get word that Tua is going to get on the field, you're going to see a huge buzz in the fantasy community about what he could potentially do.
Yeah, it's an interesting pick. I know a lot of people will probably try to stash him where possible, but the quarterback position is so deep. that I wouldn't really recommend it. I mean, if you're going to try to go 2 quarterbacks, you're going to want a player that you know is going to be starting from day one. Like, for instance, if I have Joe Burrow and I want to pair him with another quarterback like Baker Mayfield, like where you're probably trying to juggle between those 2 guys. But if you drafted somebody like Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson and you wanted to use a roster spot on Tua just based on that breakout potential, that's fine too. I just don't expect to see it. I think this Dolphins team is a 2021 ball club. I thought that, and I even said this in my mock drafts moving into this coming draft, was that take Tua, take Austin Jackson. They took both players, but have the mind of that these guys are going to be your studs starting a year from now. So I don't know how much we're going to see of him. We don't really need to see that much of him. And by the way, why so much disrespect for Josh Rosen? How is he not the number 2 quarterback on that club?
All right, well, this is us breaking down who are the rookies that you should be targeting in your fantasy 2020 drafts. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out to us and these guys. But for now, please like and subscribe below and follow us at NFL Fantasy. We'll see you next time.